Looks like a professional did that.
You did very well. So then to form it in, we're just gonna lightly push it so it comes to the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're just gonna trim the extra pie dough off with a knife. Use a butter knife. Okay, so just pick it up and just give it a trim. And this extra pie dough that you're taking off, you can put with the other pie dough and you can freeze it, or we can make little crescents with cinnamon in it and brown sugar.
Okay. Some of those recipes and things like that will be on our website.
Yeah.
Well, I must admit, for my first attempt at a gluten-free pie crust, that it wasn't too bad.
Looks good.
That looks great.
Okay. Now, if you want to do something a little bit fancier, you can flute it just by using your thumb. And all we're going to do is just give it a little bit of a press.
Yep.
And just give it a little bit of a fluted edge.
And then when that bakes up, it'll just expand.
Yeah.
Give you that nice texture on the outside edge.
Okay.
Very good. Now we need to move on to some pumpkin pie filling.
You betcha. So now that we've rolled out our pie dough, we're going to make our pie filling.
Excellent.
Okay.
I must admit, the pie dough was a good challenge for me, and it was easy to prepare, but it does take a little practice in the rolling stage. So that's good.
It's something that doesn't come natural for a lot of people, so it is something that will take a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to use a pumpkin puree today. Now, if you prefer to use real pumpkin, you can do that as well.
And I was talking to my mother about that because she's an avid pumpkin pie maker, and she said there's something called a pie pumpkin. And a pie pumpkin is actually a smaller pumpkin. We've got a couple on the table here, which are no bigger than about a 10-pin bowling ball. And the idea behind it is that the pie pumpkins have a little thicker wall, much meatier, and they tend to have much more flavor than your larger carving style pumpkins. So.
Right. Okay. So what we have is we have 2 1/3 cup of pumpkin puree.
Yep.
Okay, which is about 591 mils.
Yep.
Okay. Then we're going to add brown sugar to it, and we have 1.5 cups brown sugar. Okay. And we're going to add cinnamon.
It's good stuff.
Okay. So we're adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of cloves.
Ground cloves.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a little much to bite into a whole clove.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so we're just going to put this on the mixer.
If it was on the shopping list, you never know what the guy would come home with.
This is true. Okay, we're going to crack 3 eggs in. Now, you don't have to pre-mix these because it's an all-in mix. Okay? If you're not a good cracker, crack separate.
Yep.
No one shells in the pumpkin pie.
So everything goes in.
It's all in,
and
you're just mixing to incorporate.
Okay, and then that's simple. And then you just pop it right into the
Pop it right in.
pie shop.
Okay. And lastly, we're going to add our liquid.
Okay.
Now today we're going to make a dairy-free pumpkin pie.
Great.
So we're going to use a soy beverage. So you could use rice milk or potato milk if you prefer. Okay. Or you can use regular milk. Okay.
And if you want a real creamy pie that's got lots of intensity, lots of full flavor, you can use.
I would use a full fat milk. So I would use 3% milk, or I would use even whipping cream.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can kind of just about do whatever your taste preferences are.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've added 1.5 cups of liquid.
Okay.
Okay. You're just going to slowly turn that on.
And again, you can use your hand mixer.
Yeah, you can use a hand mixer, and you can even mix this with a whisk.
Okay.
Okay, and you're just going to mix it until it's all incorporated. And one thing about pumpkin pie, it's a custard, so you want a nice, thick filling.
Right.
You don't want a watery filling.
Right.
Okay?
And when you're using real pumpkins, not real pumpkins, but a whole fresh pumpkin, what you do is you clean your outside of your pumpkin, you cut it into pieces with the internal seeds, etc., all taken away, and you just bake it in the oven for about...
bake it in the oven. It depends how big you cut the pieces, but you would bake it the same as a squash, so about 40 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. And then you would take the skin off, put it in a strainer, and I usually leave it in a strainer overnight in the fridge just to let all the liquid drain out of it.
So you don't get too much water in it.
Right, because you don't want a runny feeling.
Right.
Okay. So we're all incorporated.
Very good. It smells good.
It smells amazing. This is my favorite pie.
Mine too.
Okay, so we have a nice consistency. Okay, and all we're going to do is we're just going to pour that right into the shell. Now, pumpkin pie is different than some pies. This goes into pie crust that hasn't been baked at all.
Yep.
Okay. If we were doing a custard that was a cold custard that doesn't have to go in the oven, then we would pre-bake our shell.
Okay.
And we would follow our favorite recipe. So usually a pie shell takes about 20 minutes to fully bake. Okay. If you were using it raw and you were using custard filling instead.
Right.
And you would let the pie shell cool before you put the custard filling in.
Are we ready to put this little guy in the oven?
We are ready to put this in the oven. So our pumpkin pie, because we're doing a deep dish pumpkin pie, we're going to leave it in the oven for about 40 to 45